Good morning, ladies and germs. Have you ever heard that old joke about ladies and germs? I'm in another neighborhood in Manatee County, which is north of where I live, in search of weird and wacky things. And I think I found something that qualifies as weird and wacky. Check this out. Look at this home. It looks like what? Like kind of like a pineapple? I think what they used to call these back in the day were a geodesic home because of the triangular pattern of the panels. Really unusual house. I think it's a 3-story. Looks like it has 3 levels. Maybe it has a higher level than that too. As usual, I'm just doing what I do is I come out, drive around areas, look for unusual things. How you doing? Looking for unusual things. And I think I found something. A big ball. A big home that resembles a large ball. Pretty unusual, right? For some reason I can never usually talk to people about their houses. We have a couple places like this in Sarasota, which I have yet to document. But eventually I will figure it out. So what you're looking at here is the Manatee River. And why is this important? Well, in a historical sense, this is what I believe was the genesis, what brought people to Manatee County. In this area was one of the first homes that were built here. Of course, this is not the home, but this home up here, which is a plantation style, was built in 1903 by Colonel John A. Graham. Here's a picture of it that Mr. Lambert was nice enough to give me. It's a picture of the home in 1918. And it just talks, he gave me this some general information that the guy that came here, Mr. Lambert, apparently had some money. You could see that this is, if you go to the back of the house, you can't see anything because there's trees, so I took it. This is sort of a dead end here, but I just got finished talking to Mr. Lambert, so he gave me sort of his blessing on talking a little bit. It's a big 3-story plantation style, and originally, I wonder why that sign says breeders there. Maybe they breed dogs. Plantation style rather than the river. And a lot of times the reason why is because there was boat access, because Florida is basically full of areas where you can't get to unless you have a boat back in the day. So let's get a little bit more of a walk around. This has got the old classic southern style with all the moss hanging down like you'd see in Georgia. You think this is like a Georgia house, but you know, I think what would happen is that people would come down and build the same kind of houses like you would see in Georgia, Virginia, and things like that. Well, you can't see anything from over here. But this is this would be, from what I understand, is one of the original starting points of Manatee County, and also known as Bradenton, Florida. So it's very fascinating that I was able to stop somebody on the street and get some information. That's usually how a lot of times I find out this information, is I'm able to spot somebody in the street, like a really nice lady that was down the street, and she told me just to knock on the door. So I knocked on the door. We just had a conversation for about a half hour, a little bit about the history of Bradenton, which generally involves people coming after the Civil War and starting plantations. Like originally, this property would have been a lot larger. I think that he said that the government was giving out plots of land. If you managed it for 5 years or so, that you were able to, they would give you like 100 acres of land. and I see the no parking signs and stuff. But like I said, I just talked to the gentleman, and a really beautiful pink house, and it's an original 1803. It's in fairly good condition. I told him one reason you can tell a house is super old, even if it has the same style, is the chimneys. I don't know if you can see the chimney kind of up there. This thing doesn't zoom in. The chimneys always have these big chimneys with a cover on top of it, and that usually gives a giveaway to a house that's been built sometime in the turn of the century area. But what a fantastic, he's actually got a cannon back here. Look at that, he didn't tell me that. I didn't ask to poke around and stuff, so. He's got a cannon out back there, you see that? Right there is an old cannon. Looks like it has a bird sitting on it, fascinating. So what we're looking at here is some historical homes that I've never really seen before. There's two of them next door to each other. These are 1860 houses according to the plaque here. Belong to Samuel George Amanda Andrus Curry. And apparently there's a large sign out here that talks a lot about the history of the homes and the family that came here, and at the time of the Civil War, which was what, 1860, 1865. If I'm getting that wrong, I apologize. But you can see a lot of these old bricks have says Copeland, Ingalls, Beeham, Atlanta, I think it says. Can you see that? It's funny how like certain bricks don't have anything written, but you can see certain brick companies would put the names on there. So we've got some old wood structures here. You can see that there's like a brick. The bottom areas are brick. It's a two-story. I always refer to these like as pioneer homes or something like that, or just wood structure homes, Civil War era. One of the telltale signs of the 1800s type of architecture is the big tall windows. You see how long they are. That's probably about a 6-foot window. And it's very hot in Florida, so they had to build big windows so they could put up the window and get as much airflow through the windows as possible, because otherwise you'd be sitting in a house that was 95 degrees and no way to cool off, and that was the kind of thing. But this sign is talking a little bit about the battles were not fought in the Manatee settlement, is what this used to be called. Now it's called Manatee County. But the Civil War brought stress and strain to the men who went away to war, and Union blockades meant that women and children only had flour occasionally when it was smuggled in. So it caused a lot of issues for the Southerners. Like here in Florida, we were considered Southerners. And it talks a little bit about people coming down here when the Confederate armies were here. And it talks about, you know, the Currys played a role in the supplying of cattle and provisions to Confederate army people. So although you wouldn't think of Florida as a part of the history of the Civil War necessarily, you may consider it now that there was a sort of what would you say? They were doing things here to support the Confederate, but not necessarily fighting in Florida necessarily. But a beautiful example of some Confederate era homes here. Like I said, a lot of the homes have been torn down, so now you have more modern homes across the street, as well as some homes that were built in the turn of the century. But just a gem that I never knew was here. Across the street there's a big historical museum, and I just happened upon coming down here and found this place, and it's very very cool. They have some more in this park. They have some more history from, and this is an actual article from the Charleston City Gazette, November 1821. It's fascinating when you read old newspapers, to me, the wording, how it reads really awkwardly in the 2000 era. Toward the end of the month of April last, some men of influence and fortune, should I do an accent maybe? Fortune of residing somewhere, because we're in the South now, in the western country, thought of making a speculation in order to obtain slaves for trifle. For this purpose they hired Charles Miller, William Weatherford, Adam. And Adam, what does that mean? Charles Miller, William Weatherford, Adam alias Alamauchi, a half-breed Indians, and Daniel Perrimans, a mulatto under those chief were engaged in about 200 Coweta Indians, and they were ordered to proceed along the western coast of East Florida southernly, and there take in the name of the United States and make prisoners of all men of color, including women and children, and they would be able to find and bring them all well secured to a certain place which has been kept secret. Something that they're digging up the history lately is the history of Angola, which I believe is an African-American settlement in Florida. So if we were to look where we are on this map, we are right about in that area. You can see where it says Angola. And so this would be modern day Manatee County, Palmetto, St. Pete, Manatee, and those are all the old names for Port Charlotte is still Charlotte Harbor, and then you've got Miami down here in the bottom. So there's a lot of interesting history that I have never really read about, such as Florida. And apparently this was an archaeological site. They also have another sign over here. So there's really not a ton out here except for the signs. I'm not by trade a historian. I call myself an amateur historian or an architect. I'm always looking for new information. That's why I'm out doing these videos, so that I can talk to you guys. And if you're from around the area and you know something that I don't, you can help the historical community, which is John Swift Stories, and help me figure out this stuff. There's just so much to read here. But you can see they have really great architectural. This is saying that this is the Gamble Plantation sugar mill before and after it was destroyed. And the Gamble Plantation was it's still there. The sugar mill is destroyed. The Gamble mansion has been restored and was a mill. What am I trying to say? It was a plantation of sugar cane, because for some reason sugar cane likes South Florida. I believe this is what they're saying is the spring head. In Florida we have a what they call a aquifer system that runs underneath Florida, and maybe it's possible that this is where the spring head was originally, and it's been capped off. And all these signs say the history of Manatee flows from the spring. So it's talking about there was a mineral spring, was a picnic spot in the 1900s before it was sort of capped, I guess you could say, which is kind of sad. I'm sorry. Should I do my southern accent? The mineral spring was about 4 feet deep and with a white sand bottom, and emptied into the Manatee River tributary known as Spring Creek. Both Native Americans and early settlers. Do I sound like a cartoon character? Early settlers believed it had medicinal powers, and in 1841, Henry Clark family had acquired the spring property under the terms of the Armed Occupation Act area around the gradually became the village of Manatee. In 1849, Dr. Franklin Branch purposed the property of health-giving qualities to the spring. So you can see it was a little bit of a swampy-looking area. And generally in history, people want to move where there is viable water, because there's no city water, I guess you could say. So it has this sign about the settlers were Josiah Gates, settled nearby in January 1842. It served Branch Fort when the early settlers camped here. I guess Branch Fort was a military fort. So this is kind of what's left here, modern day. Now, a guy that lives in the neighborhood has probably lived here for quite a long time, told me that at one time, like I said, that picture was a little spring pool, and so they capped the spring pool, I guess so nobody got hurt. I'm not really sure. I'll have to dig into that. And now it runs into a sewer and runs out to the Manatee River, which is right down the street. So at one time, I think, what the guys are telling me is that this was a creek, because of course the water flows out of, and I think it's an artesian well, artesian spring, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm getting confused. It was a mineral springs. The water bubbles up. It has to have somewhere to go as it's being forced out. So effectively, it flows down a creek, and somebody's telling me that the road used to be a creek right out into the mineral, right out into the what am I trying to say here? Right out into the Manatee River. So this is what is kind of left historically, is this park. And it would be neat actually to see a mineral springs here, because a lot of people believe that mineral springs, you know, you go in there and the minerals, you soak in the minerals and it brings you health and happiness and prosperity. It does feel good. And a lot of times, if you've ever been to a springs in the Florida area, they're about something like 79 degrees, which doesn't sound that cold. But when you get in there, dude, it feels like you're taking the coldest shower. It is like ice cold. 79 degrees sounds warm. It's not, believe me. So a very interesting place that I've never been. For some reason, I've always traveled on the other side of the main highway, which is Manatee Avenue, and I never got into this neighborhood, which is just a fantastic example of nature, beauty, a beautiful view where the public can come out, just hang out. I don't think, like, when people live near here, I don't know that they appreciate the fact that they have a neighborhood park. Look at this. Somebody has chosen this little rock to do some rock art. Nature will change you inside. Now that's very artistic, and they've got some little mountains there. Very nice. You know, there's no bad words on this. That's very unusual. Look at that. It says, I think it says "Let it be." There's a little bee there. Very, very cool. I love it, guys. Who's ever done that and not put bad words on there? Congratulations to you. So I think this is going to do it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys will like the video if you enjoyed some of the historical significance and information that I'm dropping on you. If you enjoy that, please give me a thumbs up. Maybe give me a comment. Hey, nice video. If you feel like doing that, if you feel like sharing it on Facebook or Instagram, and hey, this guy's got a good video about something I didn't even know about. Give me a share. Put me out there. Let's grow the channel together. And like I said, it's always nice having you guys along when I'm out here sweating and exploring and doing my my junior Indiana Jones thing. It's so great to have you guys watching and supporting the channel. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll see you on a different day in a different location of some historical significance or something interesting. You guys have a great day.